from heaven, how can we admit that these days, with all this process of socialization of information, we are still able to find such difficult intolerance contexts within our schools? What is bullying? It is the result of intolerance. You are fat. So we now feel the right to criticize you? Do we feel the right to, then, ridicule you? What is the big issue of homosexuals today? This question that is all the time being resumed, homophobia. What is homophobia, my people? This is when the other feels entitled to assault the homosexual, to make aggressive jokes, and even to physically attack. All of this behind a moralizing discourse that wants to be beautiful, which wants to be that and that, but absolutely inhumanizing. You may well do not agree with each other, but you have with the other a respectful stance. This is a matter of education that we need to resume. And culture. Even today I was going through the morning news. The history of people who get unemployed, do not seek another job because they have unemployment insurance. And when they find a new job, why don't they file? Because they want to continue receiving benefit. Then Alexander Garcia, the newspaper commentator, he was saying, it's unfortunate because Brazil still works like this. It is always the culture of benefit. I want to enjoy. I do not go through my reflection that the moment I assume a stance of this, I am disrespecting the taxpayers who are giving hard at work and who are fulfilling their obligation so that those who are enjoying this benefit enjoy without his need. It is the culture. It is the Brazilian way. This all the time we are seeing all the time, this unfortunate week, the news we saw about school meals in the country. What is that? It's the Brazilian way. We overcome here and we get the money under the cloth. Then the money it was to be. To benefit our children within our schools. Will be diverted to the canales of many politicians. Why? Because there is a culture, or even a lack of good culture and good values guiding our action. Because I have to be so. For me to make this culture of good prevail in the world, I have to use the microspace of my decisions. So I'm here, I have the possibility of having a direct relationship with Christian. Let's say he is my friend, that he is my brother. It is with him that I need to exercise all the principles that I believe will work for the world whole. If I'm not able to apply to little things the good I want for the whole world, then I don't have the right to want that good, because the transformation happens here. So if I promote the war, if I promote violence inside my house, if I am aggressive the moment I talk to my employee, if I am not able to show love to who work with me, to those who are subordinate to me, I can't expect the world to be better. If I am not able to treat people who serve me well, if I am not humble to be with those who serve me the same way, I can't afford to want an equal world. I can't afford to want the world to be good because I'm not doing my part. How will I expect the world to happen, that the world will be transformed, that this whole concept of the kingdom of God will be applied in history, if I do not promote it in the place I can promote? So it's hard. The world will be like this. This intolerance, this unloving will continue until we take our small attitudes that will be able to transform it all. From the moment I commit to the world, to make it better, from the situations that are proper to me. Close. If I do not make this transformation happen here, I do not have the right to expect the world to be given. I wish you in your struggles, you always have the right and the possibility of removing your excesses. So you have before your eyes your fundamental truth. Without exaggeration. Just you. And from that, you meet the path of life. Thank you for your affection, for your attention, and may God bless you a lot. May God pour over your heart, about your home, about your life, the disposition that characterize the heart of Our Lady. Pour upon us the blessing of the Almighty God, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Our life is always this equation of what we are with what we would like to be. Also, a little bit of what we were. It is not possible to combine the present moment without the junction of all this. And the combination of the future, this time that we don't even know if we will have, depends on the wise articulation. the past we had with the gift we have today. It is this articulation that makes us go steps to walk, always believing that the hand of God sustains us, but believing the right way. Whenever I think of the providence of God, I think as a favor that never ceases to be present in my life, but at the same time never removes my possibility of doing my part. Because humanly, my people, we have already learned, even psychology, pedagogy teach us that the good educator never gives his disciple the ready lesson. It would be a crime against the disciple to offer him the ready lesson. The master gives the certainty of his presence to withdraw any questions. The master silences and refuses to give the answer we seek so much. Isn't it like that in life? There are answers that God can only answer us through his silence. This is God's hand also supporting us. Because sometimes we have illusion, and this is the result of a naive vision. Unfortunately, religious discourse, throughout our lives, can put us naive visions that God will do everything for us. That God does it. That God does that. Right? We have the right to believe in divine protection, but we are not unaddressed to do our part. Because it is a matter of wisdom, of maturity. The father does this with his son. The mother does this with her son. Love cannot make us think. The love we know God has for us cannot make us think that he will do everything. I really like this expression. We only have the right to wait for the impossible after we did everything that was possible to us. So God protects us. Yes. But he also asks me to do my part in this protection. I pray to God for my life. I ask him to give me health. But I need to do my part so that this health is a reality in my life. Isn't it? The care I have with me is an expression of my part, the miracle that I need to perform daily. So, sometimes I identify the hand of God being present in my story, but not holding back as I think, say, yes. Some helplessness are too important in our human process. It would be very interesting if we learned this from the crib, but unfortunately not. So it's never too late for us to learn. The desperation that sometimes we feel in life is also the hand of God, because he who loves unprotects, so that you are exposed to what you need to live and experiment alone, his presence always looking at us, always guiding us, because this is very interesting. The more we grow, the more we mature in our experience with God, the greater the ability we have to hear and understand his voice in our history. So, God protects me like this, even when he is distant, you know? It is not that it is distant. It is that we feel because of life situations. The context disadvantages to perceive this intense presence in our lives. So the moment of disconsolate, my God, it seems that I am abandoned by the Lord. Not. This disconsolate is part of his protection in our life. Because those who love know very well that love also needs to go through the harsh experience of unprotection. Because excessive love unprotects. Isn't that how it works? When a person is excessively protected in the background, otherwise there is a depletion. Because that person cannot mature. So she will be eternally naive, will be forever believing that she is inside a fairy tale. And life is not a fairy tale. So believing in God's protection does not give us the right to think that God will do everything for us, that will walk for us. No, he will always be strengthening us ahead of these battles that we need to face. But we will be responsible for performing the part that fits us. It was like this with Moses. This song quotes Moses, right? It was this hand that helped Moses divide the sea into two. There is a great wealth in this passage that is in Exodus, when Moses is terrified, because he withdrew the people from Egypt, and came out towards this protected, not promised land. See, it is also a little protected. The promised land would be achieved with a promise that God made to Moses, as long as he was encouraged to remove that people from slavery and cross the difficulties of the desert. Note that anyone who has had the opportunity to go to Israel knows very well what the desert is. You get into that desert to reach a place we don't know where it is, which is only in a man's heart, as a promise, is a great difficulty. The people believed, when, after Moses began to live the restrictions of the desert, the hunger began to miss the onions. Because in Egypt they ate onion. In the time of slavery, the onion was the main food. That's why sometimes we use the expression, "Don't cry the onions of Egypt," right? You may have listened to this expression when someone advises you to regret the past. What is to regret the onions of Egypt? It's saying, "Oh, I was a slave, but I had this food. I had onion to feed. And now I'm free. But I have nothing." Calm. Give the desert time. Allow the desert tell you what he needs to say. Even hunger, the restriction. It is very important in the human process. We identify all the time that people are spoiled because nothing has lacked. It's terrible when you have a child who has been pampered since childhood. She has not missed anything at all. And suddenly, in the breakdown of life, suddenly that person needs to face the desert of life. And she doesn't have enough ammunition to handle. Then do what? How do we face the desert? There at that moment, when Moses removes the people from slavery and encourages to take this people through the desert, on their way to the promised land, they also feel afraid. He also does not know what he will be. Therefore, he all the time, through God's manifestations at that moment in Moses' life, he communicates with God. It is the epiphanies, which are these glorious manifestations of God there, through simple reality. It is the burning bush. It is the stone that flows the water anyway. God is talking to Moses, giving him signs that he is on the right track, but does not deprive him of the desert's desert. Then unprotected in that desert, materially speaking, he can make confidence in God that no other comfort had given. See how interesting it is? Like unprotection, apparent unprotection, it is all reserved and behind. The scenes care there, just as you are a parent, is a mother, creates a restriction on your child so that can he mature. It's not like this. Sometimes you take something out of your child so that he really misses it so that he can later value later. I say again, many people go wrong in their lives because nothing is lacked. Then you can see that when too much it lacks, it can also cause an imbalance. A lack of confidence in life, in people finally, is the balance that works. When you start educating by placing protection and apparent unprotections, where that person will have to face the situation alone, even if you are seeing from afar. I faced situations in my extremely difficult life that the other was not enough to say, "I'm here." Why? Because they were mine. It even helps you look to the side, to know that there is a friend with you, that there is a mother, that there is a father, a brother. But in many moments of our lives, this Calvary is to be lived in solitude. That's when I need to live this feeling of being unprotected. Just as Moses lived by setting the discomfort of the desert, when facing those discomfort, he understood what the human condition is. So I also make this experience. You do. I don't want to spend my life in white clouds. I don't really want to. And that's why since a boy, when life was hard to me, I found something in that discomfort that made me think louder, that made me think beyond. Moses, living the discomfort of the desert, needed to convince those who were by his side off that discomfort would be worth it. But some wanted to go back to slavery. Look how human weakness is very present in our lives. Father Fabio, good night. What to do with so much lack of humanity? Why are hearts today so empty? Why are we so needy of love for neighbor? It is so sad to realize that, because this week we saw so many other news also showing this unloving. It is unfortunate that intolerance is so at the flower. Suddenly, people are on the street, cowardly assaulted to death. People who sometimes leave to have fun. I don't even enter the merits of the matter as they seek this fun, but no one leaves home to die. It's just that things are happening. Sometimes our values. Still now, I was also seeing the report there at Moro du Alamán. The process of pacification has happened, thank God. Gradually, life went back to normal in that place. And now yesterday they had some images of a helicopter that looked like it was also having another robbery, an attempt to confuse. And when they approached were children playing with plastic weapons made by themselves. Then I made this association with the images that are showing there from Pakistan. Pakistan, no. Afghanistan. No. Pakistan. Where was the dead bin Laden? There they were showing the children with the weapons. It is unfortunate, right, that these days, with so much violence in the world, we still see these weapon war instruments. And that being a joke between us. I remember when I was a child, we got a gain as a gift. Imagine that. What a horrible thing, right? How could at that time? I don't know. I haven't been in a children's toy store for a long time. But I can't admit that these days you will and you buy a toy gun. I don't know if there is yet. What I know is that often games, video games, all incites a lot of violence. The games, the electronic games, we have spoken many times about it here. This generates unloving because when a child plays freely with a gun, what is a weapon for? To kill. So if she is doing her childhood learning in her childhood, it's very difficult for us to want to extract from her a loving attitude, a peaceful stance. So if we want to neutralize the growth of this unloving, we need to change our conduct. What is fun? What is our fun? How we find our fun? It is not possible to have a happy society, a harmonious society, with so many drugs, with so much socialized alcohol, with this process of self-destructing our youth, all the time being motivated through parties, through promotions. So while we are looking for this kind of fun, while we are offering our soul this kind of beauty, in parentheses of joy, so it is natural that we will increasingly immerse yourself in this context of dehumanization. Because alcohol dehumanizes, the drug dehumanizes. Socialized prostitution. And we need to teach back to sensitivity. We can only decrease the harms of this unloving today from the moment we create a culture of peace. The word culture imposes on us a lot of responsibility. What is culture? It is what you cultivate. How will you understand the cultural process of a people? When you enter the customs of that people, and you begin to identify what that society has cultivated, promoted, and has grown. This is culture. When we say, wow, that person is very cultured, he has a lot of culture. What is it? She had a lot of cultivation. She cultivated a lot. She read a lot. She sought to meet. She was curious. She investigated. As through reading, through information. So the culture of peace is a cultivation of every day. This intolerance we have noticed these days, which permeates all the dimensions of human relationship. If this is not modified, our world will become increasingly unbearable, increasingly difficult. We were talking here on other days. The intolerance between the differences. My God.